Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Police Commissioner Tisch, I'd like to welcome everyone to One Police Plaza for the annual High Holiday Security Briefing. To begin, I ask everyone please rise for the presentation of our nation's colors and the singing of the national anthem by international Jewish music recording artist Yoni Z.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Yoni Z. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. To begin our briefing, it is my pleasure to introduce the Police Commissioner of the City of New York, the Honorable Jessica S. Tisch.
Good evening, everyone. In 5 days, Jewish New Yorkers will enter into the holiest part of the year and continue the customs and the traditions that have been observed for millennia. So in this time of spiritual reflection and renewal, I am so pleased to welcome you to One Police Plaza and to share some of the remarkable work being done by your NYPD officers. So far in 2025, overall crime is down in our precincts, on our subways, and in our housing developments. Shooting incidents and shooting victims are both at their lowest levels of any year on record. Yeah. This past July and August were the safest July and August ever in our subways outside of the pandemic years. Transit robberies are at their lowest levels in recorded history, and burglary hit a record low citywide for the month of August. But even with crime falling, we know that members of the Jewish community feel unsafe in the face of rising anti-Semitism since October 7th. When we woke up that morning, anti-Semitic hate crimes were actually down 20% for 2023. But by the end of that year, they had surged 80%. And while Jewish New Yorkers make up just 10% of the city's population, they are victims in more than half of the hate crimes. This is happening in communities across our country. And over the past 23 months, we have seen how serious the situation truly is. Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram worked in diplomacy and conflict resolution at the Israeli Embassy in Washington. Despite dedicating their lives and their careers to peace, they were gunned down in cold blood last May, just steps from the U.S. Capitol. Less than 2 weeks later, a Colorado man firebombed a peaceful demonstration calling for the release of Israeli hostages, killing one person and injuring about a dozen more, including a Holocaust survivor. So while the war in the Middle East is thousands of miles away, its hate and violence have ricocheted across the globe. The attacks in D.C. and Colorado were not isolated. They are the latest in a growing pattern of rhetoric shifting from outrage to incitement, from slogans to direct calls for violence. And tragically, those calls are being answered. Each attack makes the next more likely. That's how contagion works. Since October 7th, more than 25 attacks or disrupted plots have targeted Israeli and U.S. diplomatic sites. In December, a Virginia man was arrested for planning an attack against the Israeli consulate in Midtown. Last May, a man was arrested at JFK for allegedly trying to firebomb the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv. Over 45 additional incidents have targeted synagogues, schools, and other visible parts of Jewish life across Europe and the United States, including a mass casualty plot against a Brooklyn synagogue allegedly planned for the first anniversary of October 7th, which was thwarted last year by the New York Joint Terrorism Task Force. And again, we know that every high-profile attack raises the specter of another. Individuals already on the edge, they don't need instructions, they only need a spark. That's why the NYPD, your NYPD, is acutely focused on prevention to snuff out sparks before they catch and spread like wildfire. Our officers, particularly those in our Intel and Counterterrorism Division and our Joint Terrorism Task Force, are constantly monitoring threats, maintaining a visible presence, and working closely with synagogues, with yeshivas, and Jewish organizations to keep our communities safe. And we are seeing the difference that this makes. So far in 2025, anti-Semitic hate crimes are down 16% citywide. And I assure you that that is progress that we are absolutely determined to build on. And as we enter the high holidays, that work only intensifies. Over the next several weeks, there will be an increased police presence around synagogues and other sensitive locations. You will see additional uniformed footposts in our neighborhoods and around our campuses, and dedicated houses of worship autos deployed citywide. This is counterterrorism and intelligence-led, but I can assure you it is an all of NYPD approach. Precinct commanders and community affairs officers will visit with local clergy leaders to develop plans tailored to each location. Traffic safety officers will monitor vehicle and pedestrian traffic conditions in your neighborhoods. And as always, there will be other security members that you certainly will not see. Our Intelligence and Counterterrorism Bureau will be working around the clock, including our intelligence research specialists, who do so much behind the scenes to understand the entire threat landscape. In a few moments, you'll hear about the work that they're doing along with our Hate Crimes Task Force to ensure everyone's safety, because no one should ever be afraid to worship freely and openly. No one should ever feel like a target, and the NYPD will never tolerate bias or hate anywhere in our city in any form. To state the obvious, I take this work personally. As police commissioner, as a mother, raising a family here, and as a Jewish New Yorker, your concerns are my concerns. And I want you all to know that the NYPD, along with Mayor Adams, will always be here for you. We are resilient, we are vigilant, and we are proud to walk this path with you. Thank you for your partnership. Stay safe, and an early Shana Tova.
Thank you, Commissioner Tisch. And now to give us an intelligence briefing, it is my pleasure to introduce the Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism, Rebecca Weiner.
Good evening, all, and welcome. It is always the sign that we are in fall, that we are approaching on a new year when we come together at our wonderful police headquarters to celebrate the High Holy Days. And it is always my or my team members' honor to give you an intel brief. And really, this is an opportunity for us to talk about how we will continue to keep our community safe, not just through the holidays, but all year long. And when we gathered at this time last year, we were already nearly 1 year into the war in Gaza. And over the course of that year, we had held countless calls and done spur-of-the-moment briefings and meetings with you as we collectively and safely navigated days of rage, calls for attacks against the Jewish community worldwide, terrorist organizations putting out propaganda, encouraging attacks, and dozens of threats, and an increase in hate crimes that, as the police commissioner has just described, has for the moment gone down, which is fantastic news. And when we came together here last year, we had just arrested a Canadian ISIS supporter on his way to Brooklyn with alleged plans to target a house of worship in a mass casualty attack on the first anniversary of October 7th. That case was evidence of the perniciousness of the threat that we're confronting, the ubiquity of the anti-Semitism that has exploded around us in the last 2 years. But it was also evidence of our system of tripwires working just as it is set up to do. Our federal partners flagging the threat, our Canadian partners making sure that it was contained the entire time, intelligence and law enforcement working relentlessly, collectively, across borders and over time to make sure that our city, our residents, our houses of worship remained safe. And that's, of course, the whole point, not just of our intelligence and counterterrorism program, but of our department writ large. It's the core objective of what we do, and it's why I'm so honored and proud to represent our officers and our intelligence analysts. Now, fast forward to Valentine's Day. In the afternoon, we received a tip from one of our trusted security partners, Community Security Initiative, related to ominous social media postings targeting a Manhattan synagogue. We pulled together our resources across the department in a matter of hours to identify the person, track his movements across the country in real time, and coordinate with our state and local law enforcement partners to arrest him before he could enter the Lincoln Tunnel into Manhattan. A few months later in June, again, over the course of a few hours, this time on a warm, early summer evening, we tracked down and arrested a man who'd made multiple improvised incendiary devices, storing them on rooftops in Soho before he could put them to use. So these are examples of a machine that we've built and honed and changed over the last 2 decades to identify threats early on and to nip them in the bud. This machine gets into gear at the speed of the threats that we're facing, which is faster and faster, driven by our online environment. And it's calibrated finely to keep all of us safe. And all around us, we see more and more why these resources are necessary. The police commissioner mentioned over 70 incidents targeting U.S., Israeli diplomatic facilities, as well as Jewish houses of worship, schools, and other cultural facilities around the West and across the world in more than a dozen countries over the last 2 years. That's a volume and a velocity of threats and of incidents that's hard to collectively keep track of. And those are just the ones that have been made public. To name just a few, an arson attack against the Pennsylvania governor on the first night of Passover, the brutal assassination of 2 employees of the Israeli mission in D.C., the horrific attack in Boulder. Even incidents recently that didn't directly target the Jewish community have been widely celebrated because they impacted the Jewish community, such as the shooting at 345 Park Avenue this summer, even last week's assassination of Charlie Kirk. So examples of the anti-Semitism, the tsunami of hate that we face, but also examples of why we come together and do this year over year, week over week, day upon day. Last year, at this time, we came together amid all this turmoil and hoped for a better year. And this year, we're doing it just the same. For the next 2 weeks, just like the other 50 weeks of the year, we're going to be out there, not just my bureau, across the department, working with our partners, standing by your sides, keeping all of us safe. The police commissioner mentioned you're going to be seeing, as you do every year, an increased presence of our heavy weapons teams, our bomb-sniffing dogs, our patrol officers, all of the parts of our machine that you see, and then those that you don't, working behind the scenes to monitor for tips, identify threats, work on leads, all activity that we wish that we didn't have to do, but we know that we do, and so we do it together with you, with your support, your partnership, and we look forward to a bright and sweet new year together as ever. Shana Tova.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiner. It's now my pleasure to introduce from the Israel Ministry of Defense Mission to the U.S. and Canada, Director Avilam Hassan.
Distinguished NYPD officers, first responders, leaders of the Jewish community, members of the government, and honored guests. As we approach Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, a time of reflection, renewal, and hope. Rosh Hashanah is not only a religious observance. It is a moment to pause and ask ourselves, what have we accomplished this past year? What have we succeeded in? And where can we improve? It is a time for personal introspection, but also for evaluating the society we live in. You all, members of the New York Police Department and the first responders, are the guardians of this society. You protect the vulnerable, uphold the law, and face danger head-on, often at a great personal risk. You make it possible for millions to live freely, safely, and with dignity. Winston Churchill once said, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." He spoke of the Royal Air Force pilots during the World War II, but his words resonate just as powerfully with you right now. You are the few who carried the weight of many. Without you, a free and just society cannot exist. Thank you. And in the same breath, I must speak of the State of Israel, which today faces one of the most complex security challenges in its history. Nearly 2 years after the horrific terror attack of October 7, Israel is engaged in active combat against terror across 6 fronts, from Gaza to Lebanon, from Syria to Yemen, from Iran to the diplomatic battlefield. This is not merely fight over borders. It is struggle for a very existence of democratic Jewish state in the heart of the Middle East. The Israeli Defense Force, alongside intelligence and security services, are working tirelessly to dismantle terrorist infrastructure, neutralize extremist threats, and counter the growing influence of Iran and its proxies. The Israeli people, soldiers, civilians, and communities have shown extraordinary resilience and unity in the face of adversary. As you stand guard over this great city, they stand guard over their homeland. As we enter the new year, I wish you and your families a year of peace, fulfillment, and recognition. May you continue to serve with honor and purpose, and may you always feel the appreciation and support of your communities you protect. Thank you all for what you do and for what you represent. I will finish and will pray for an immediate release of our 48 hostages. 48 of them are still in captivity in Hamas tunnels. And finish with blessing Shana Tova. Happy New Year.
And thank you, Director Hassan. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the NYPD's Chief Chaplain, Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass.
Good evening. Oscar Wilde said, "The greatest feeling in the world is to do a good deed anonymously and then have someone find out about it." Well, this is an audience filled with people who perform multitudes of good deeds anonymously, but we're glad we found out about some of them. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known whom to invite. This is also an audience which rejects the twisted thinking of Quincy Adams Wagstaff. Quincy Adams Wagstaff was the president of a college. He's a character played by Groucho Marx in the movie Horse Feathers. At a faculty meeting, Wagstaff asked, "Have we got a stadium?" The faculty says, "Yes." He then asks, "Have we got a college?" The faculty says, "Yes." "Well," said Wagstaff, "we can't afford both of them. Tomorrow we start tearing down the college." Well, there's a lot of people today that go along with that distorted, perverted way of thinking, and the reason is very simple. As Shakespeare put it, time is out of joint. However, a clear-eyed and objective assessment of reality, as well as a sensible perspective on life, ought to yield two incontrovertible principles. One is that no society can long endure without effective law enforcement. That's why the Torah teaches, Shoftim v'shotrim titain b'sharecha. You shall appoint police officers and judges in your gates. And secondly, we're blessed here in New York to have the greatest police department in the world. That police department makes the promise of America a reality. No one expressed the essence of what America is all about better than George Washington in a letter he wrote in 1790 to the Jews of Newport, Rhode Island. He said, "This is a special country which gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance. A place where all people can become citizens and enjoy the right to worship." This country is a beautiful country, and my particular dream about America is that Abraham, the patriarch, might have been able to celebrate in 1776 in Philadelphia the establishment of American independence. You know that Abraham is the dominant personality in this Rosh Hashanah observance, and Abraham is the spiritual ancestor of most of the great religions of the Western world. Whether you're Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, Greek Orthodox, or Muslim, we all hail Abraham as the progenitor of monotheism. Abraham was approached one day by God, who said that he would give birth to a great people who would bring peace, justice, and love to the world. And Abraham believed God and was sure that God would enable him to fulfill that reality. Abraham bequeathed that not yet theology to all of us. And that not yet theology calls upon us to recognize that there are certain things that are wrong, but to make them right and to correct things, we must never come to the conclusion that the world always has to be the way that it is today, because there are forces working in the world to make things better. And in the vanguard of those forces is certainly here in New York, the New York City Police Department. This room is filled with Jewish leaders who have come here today because they know that they cannot hope to observe these Yamim Noraim, these days of awe, in a normal, decent, appropriate way without the cooperation, the assistance, and the protection of the New York City Police Department. And the leaders of this department have come to know that they have no more faithful and devoted friends than the members of New York City's Jewish community. That same Jewish community is anxious to utilize its energy, its substance, and its assets not only to help Jews, but to help defend the rights of people of every race, religion, color, and creed. And finally, we ought to think about the fact that this holiday is also Yom HaTruah. It's the day of blowing of the shofar. The shofar, the ram's horn, is the most important ritual object of the holiday. Originally, its purpose was to call the people together. As the Bible says, Uvahakel et hakahal. When you draw the people together, you shall blow the shofar. It was also a wake-up call, an alarm clock to tell us that this world is not everything it should be, and there's a lot of work for us to do. We're certainly lucky to have Police Commissioner Jessica S leading that battle in behalf of our people. She has reduced violent crime to an all-time low. She's a pluralism supremacist who believes that it is diversity and pluralism which makes this city great. But pluralism, e pluribus unum, is a tender plant. It has to be nurtured, it has to be celebrated, it has to be protected from its enemies. And we're thankful for her leadership, which emphasizes those qualities and the importance of menschlichkeit. And she is certainly always proud to say that her Jewishness is the most important ingredient of her DNA. We certainly hope that 5786 resolves all of our problems. But in the meantime, we know that our common efforts as police officers and as members of the Jewish community do honor to the memory of Abraham. We know also that as long as there is cruelty anywhere on this earth, and until kindness and justice and love permeate the universe from one end to the other, we will have to greet a new year buttressed on the one hand by the realization of the dire consequences of what could happen, but still filled with appreciation for the covenant of Abraham and his trust in God. May 95786 be the year when we create a heaven here on earth. May 5786 be the year when peace, justice, and love is ubiquitous. May 5786 be the year when the not yet theology becomes actual. Shana Tova Umetuka, a beautiful, wonderful, and sweet year to you all.
Thank you, Rabbi Cass. And now to give us a briefing on hate crimes, it's my pleasure to introduce from the NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force, Lieutenant Robert Delaney.
As the last speaker of the day, I understand the assignment. I will try to make this brief. Good afternoon, and thank you. Police Commissioner Tisch, First Deputy Kinsella, Chief Shell, Chief Kenny, Chief Savino, distinguished executives, clergy, guests, family, friends, and Chief Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass. I once asked Chief Dr. Rabbi Alvin Cass, "You have so many titles, which one do you favor?" And he didn't even pause. He said, and I'll try to do my best Rabbi Cass impression, "It would be Rabbi, because that title was given to me from God." So I'm blessed that he was here. Before I begin describing the current landscape of our hate in our city, I think it's important to reflect on where we've been, to give a bit of depth and perspective to the current picture. After the attacks on October 7th and the days, weeks, months that followed, we experienced a deluge of hate and anti-Semitism that has never before been seen in our city. At its peak in May of 2022, hate crimes against Jews spiked an astonishing 118%. As I stand here today, I'm happy to report that we continue to see declines in overall hate crimes. In fact, year-to-date, overall hate crimes are down 22%, and anti-Jewish crimes are down 16% for the same period. But perspective is everything. Despite these gains, despite being in the right trajectory, 56% of all hate crimes are committed against the Jewish community, more than all other protected classes combined. And when we compare these totals of anti-Jewish hate crimes, since October 7th, 2023, the same period prior, hate crimes against the Jewish community are still up. Perspective is everything. We still have much work to do, but you know your hate crime task force stands with you and ready to do the job. We are fortunate to have the best detectives, consummate professional investigators who have worked their entire careers for the chance to serve you in this role. They understand that hate crimes not only affects an individual, but affects an entire community. They also understand that a quick arrest brings relief to that same community. But I am also comforted and inspired to know that we are not alone in fighting hate. It's not done in a vacuum, it's done with the team. As I look out in this crowd, I see many friends and partners in this fight. From community leaders and organizations like the ADL, UJA, JCRC, CSI, COJO, and groups like Hatzola and Kaverim. The strength of our bonds has been forged in fire, and I'd like to highlight some of the truly incredible stories of bravery and partnership. In May of last year, a vehicle jumped the curb in Flatbush, Brooklyn, and while shouting, "I'll kill all the Jews," a vehicle jumped the curb in in Flatbush, Brooklyn, and drove it to a crowd of yeshiva students. Multiple times while shouting, "I will kill these Jews," miraculously, everyone was able to jump out of the way and no one was injured. A description of the vehicle was shared, and Chaplain Patrol immediately began coordinating their resources and quickly found the vehicle and alerted NYPD resources to its location, who responded and arrested the driver without further incident until he could do it again, no doubt saving lives. A few months later, on Yom Kippur, a different driver of a vehicle being operated recklessly on the streets of Borough Park was heard yelling, "I want to kill a Jew." Shortly after, he tried to swerve into a Jewish male crossing the street and onto the sidewalk. Thankfully, he was not hurt. But this event was witnessed by a member of the Shmira Patrol who followed the vehicle and coordinated again with the 6-6 precinct, who stopped the car and arrested the driver. Since then, he has pled guilty. And this past April, over the course of 3 days, members of the Williamsburg Jewish community were terrorized by a white vehicle that roamed the streets, and its occupants fired a gel blaster gun at people walking across the street. This is a little water gun, they call it, but it shoots a very compact, hard substance, and it leaves a mark on people. In total, 8 members of the community were shot with these BB-style weapons at 6 different locations. The Hate Crime Task Force quickly worked to identify the vehicle and shared that information. In short order, members of the Chaplain Patrol found the vehicle and followed it. While conducting a traffic stop that was executed by the 9-0 precinct, 3 occupants were arrested and 2 gel blaster guns were recovered from the car. All the defendants have since pled guilty. Now, I know I saw Yankee in here before. Yankee, if you just stand up. All right, well, Yankee was invaluable in this case, helping us with interviews, translations, and IDs to make a quick arrest in this case. I've had the pleasure of dealing with leadership and coordinators of these groups all the time. I call many of them my friends. But to the members of the all-volunteer organizations, I'd like to extend my sincerest thanks and admiration for what you do and your partnership. The Hate Crime Task Force and the entire NYPD stands ready this holiday season, as we always do. And together, we will bring swift justice to those who dare to try to harm our Jewish community or any community in this city. But we cannot investigate what we do not know. So please, as you return to your respective neighborhoods and congregations, encourage the members of your community not to be silent. Encourage them to call 911 or seek out a police officer. If they have become a victim of a crime, guide them to the nearest police precinct, transit district, or police service area to voice any concerns related to anti-Semitism and bigotry. Hate thrives in the dark and grows in silence. So the single most important thing you can do is use your voice to report it. And as you prepare to celebrate these holiday seasons, I hope you share my optimism and feel confident as I do that the NYPD and the Hate Crime Task Force stands with you, stands ready always. I would like to wish you all and your families a very happy and a very sweet New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Delaney. Before we conclude, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise and join us in the singing of God Bless America, led by Police Officer Adam Marchetta.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Officer Marchetta. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our annual High Holiday Security Briefing. On behalf of Police Commissioner Tisch, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Please have a happy and healthy, safe New Year. Have a pleasant evening and a safe trip home. Thank you.